Hey guys, Anthem is not long away and the hype is building. In this video, I'll be covering over 50 facts about Anthem. So if you didn't know something or did, or perhaps have something I missed, let me know in the comments. So let's begin light. Anthem is a sci-fi open-world action RPG set on a planet that has not finished being terraformed by a mysterious race before they vanished. In this world, you're trying to survive against an enemy who is trying to weaponize the relics left behind. It's developed by Biowares, the devs behind Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. Some of the heavy hitters were taken off Andromeda during its production to work on Anthem, which is why some people are still rightly sour. The main hook is that you're able to pilot 4 extremely powerful exosuits: the Ranger, the Colossus, the Storm, and the Interceptor. Think Iron Man, as you really do feel like you're him flying around, taking on enemies and saving the world. Every single mission and objective in the game can be tackled cooperatively by up to 4 players. Though co-op is encouraged, you can play the full game solo. You just might have a slightly more difficult time, as there'll be no one to repair your suit if you drop mid-battle or help combo with you. However, the game's difficulty within the difficulty setting will be adjusted based on how many players are present. You can use a simple matchmaking system if you don't have friends to play with for every single mission or objective. There will be a rich storyline like all Bioware games, but the focus will be around finding powerful and interesting loot and destroying your enemies. Your pilot levels up as you play, and pilot skill affects all javelins you choose to pilot. You can, for example, put points into flying for longer periods of time without overheating, allowing for greater mobility during combat and fewer stops when traversing long distances. Your pilot is fully customizable with male and female options as well as looks, but you can make more than 1 pilot per account. Facial animations are top notch, so we can start to move on from Mass Effect Andromeda. Your Javelin doesn't gain levels in the traditional sense, but using one type will weight drops towards the loot that the Javelin can equip, and better quality gear drastically improves your performance. Think Diablo 3, with gear and weapons being the primary drive to improve power. Your Javelins are also cosmetically customizable to a huge extent. You can make almost anything that you can think of, with detail going right down to the material your Javelin is made out of: leather, metals, fabric, and more Dragon Age inspired dragon scales. Look, they made a Mass Effect N7 armor suit. The customizable options right now are helmet, arms, chest, legs, paint, wear state, vinyls, and animation. The wear state lets you set the rust and damage to your suit. Vinyls let you add interesting artwork to your suit, which can be unlocked with play, can be bought, or given out during events. An example event could be Christmas, and they might give out a Santa-style vinyl. Animations let you customize how your suit animates in situations, like your hero landing, what emotes you have, and your victory pose. The cosmetic side will be the only area that has microtransactions. This isn't fully fleshed out yet, but it has been confirmed by multiple devs that there will be no pay to win and no loot boxes. You can choose to pay for cosmetics that you like, or you can earn them in game. This will not be changed post-release. This is a live service game, meaning it will always be online, so those without internet connections won't be able to play it. Bioware plans to service and update the game for a long time. There are no plans for a sequel, but there are plans for extra unpaid content and interesting global events. So just to reiterate, no loot boxes, no pay to win, and there will be story DLC, free story DLC, so the player base will not be split. These were the main concerns of gamers that EA are involved, so having a wait and see attitude will be the best approach. They also plan to add new Javelins in the future. Your hub area, Fort Tarsis, is where you can craft, buy items, manage your suits, talk to NPCs, get quests, and further the storyline. While you're in the fort, or your Strider, a large walking mech, you're experiencing the story without your friends or party members. Being able to fly adds another access to combat and traversal, adding a breath of fresh air that's hard to explain. The controls feel responsive and finely tuned. The free movement feels better than any exosuit style or even Ace Combat style game. You can either go on missions or you can explore outside of the fort freely. Free play lets you come across world events and explore within your own time, alone or with a group. Every time you set out in free play mode, the world will spawn in slightly different creatures and events. While exploring, you can find cortexes, which grant experience and access new lore, as well as finding chests, which can contain nice loot. You can also find crafting material. Yes, there will be crafting in the game, and it's set to stay relevant all throughout the experience. Anthem is a dynamic world and has day and night cycles, as well as world events. World events include things like giant Shaper storms, which are storms that kick off instanced areas for you to explore, fight in, and loot. Flying for long periods of time will overheat your engines, but you can cool them by skimming the water, flying through waterfalls, or even diving underwater. All of which let you continue to fly, or you can land and let them cool naturally. There are no underwater battles, but you can find some interesting areas exploring the waters of Anthem, and some areas will only be accessible through underwater travel. Some areas will be harder than others, but you can go anywhere freely in the massive open world from very early on in the game. While exploring or during missions, friends can join you at any time, and they can be at any level. There will be raid-like areas in the game called strongholds that take a group to complete and have powerful enemies and bosses and yield legendary loot. You can play in any Javelin. You aren't restricted to playing in just one per character. Each suit can hold 2 weapons per mission, which can be changed pre and post expedition. The Ranger, Storm and Interceptor can equip all weapon types except Heavy, which is reserved for the Colossus. Weapons include SMGs, rifles, shotguns, miniguns, grenade launchers, and more. Weapons come in different rarities, which have different stats and unique properties. Think Diablo with its loot drops. Each Javelin has its own unique melee attack. The Ranger uses a shock mace to hit individual enemies, the Colossus uses its own body to smash the ground in an area effect attack, knocking down enemies. The Storm's fiery strike helps keep enemies away with a strong knockback, and the Interceptor employs double-bladed daggers. These daggers can chain hits indefinitely, making the Interceptor the easiest to dish out tons of melee damage. Each Javelin can be equipped with 3 different gear pieces that affect their abilities in combat, 2 that focus around more offensive abilities and 1 that's more supportive. The first slot has 5 unique abilities per class, the second also has 5 unique abilities per class, but the third has 2 unique abilities per class, bringing the total abilities to 48. However, each ability can be modified with gear. The Interceptor's first slot, called Assault Systems, can equip items that grant abilities like glaives that home in on enemies or freeze them, acid bombs that corrode enemies, cluster mines, and electric charge melee dashes. The second slot, called Strike Systems, has abilities like stars that make the enemies explode, create ninja-like clones, strong melee-like strikes, and sprays of acid. The final slot, called Support Systems, has abilities that can mark targets for increased damage or remove status effects from allies. The Storm's first ability slot, called Kinesis Gear, can equip items that have abilities like Lightning Strikes, Ice Storms, Flame Bursts, Projectile Ice Shards, and Heat-Seeking Flames. The second ability slot, called Focus Seals, has abilities like Rapid Fire Ice Bolts, Fireballs, Balls of Lightning, Beams of Ice, and Chain Lightning. The final ability slot, called Support Seals, can summon wind walls to protect your team from projectiles and a field that decreases the cooldown of ally abilities. The Colossus' first ability slot, named Ordnance Launcher Gear, can equip items that have abilities like High Explosive Mortars, Burst Fire Mortars, a Firewall Creating Mortar, Coil that zaps nearby enemies, and a Shock Nova Coil. The second ability slot, named Heavy Assault Launcher Gear, has abilities like a Heavy Cannon, a Flamethrower, a Flak Cannon, a Railgun, or Acid Spitter. The third ability slot, named Support Gear, can equip items that let the Colossus taunt, taking fire away from his allies, or Pulse that gives allies a damage resistance buff. The Ranger's first ability slot, called Grenade Gear, lets you equip items that grant a range of grenades, like Frag, Inferno, Frost, Sticky, and a grenade that sends out homing seekers. The second ability slot, called Assault Launcher Gear, has abilities like homing missiles, energy pulses, lightning beams, venom darts, and blast missiles. The final slot, called the Support Gear, can equip abilities that can create a spherical force field that deflects projectiles, or one that increases weapon damage for teammates. Each Javelin also has an ultimate ability that charges up while dispatching enemies and can be unleashed for devastating effect. The Ranger locks onto one or many enemies, then launches a salvo of missiles, dispatching many fast-moving enemies or hitting a few strong enemies with multiple missiles. The Colossus takes out its siege cannon, whose impact is like a small nuclear bomb, crowd controlling very well. The Storm summons elemental disruptions, first hitting with frost, then electricity, and then fire, after which all the spots that were hit will be struck with a meteor. The Interceptor charges its blades and becomes quick, invulnerable, and powerful, letting you cut through enemies like butter with your blades. The Interceptor is the fastest of the Javelins, but has light armor, meaning it will take fall damage and will need to avoid too much sustained fire. It's able to flip and dodge around like a ninja though. The Storm Javelin can hover for a long time until its shields are taken down, letting it hover high and rain down death with elemental attacks. It has light armor as well, meaning it will also take fall damage and also need to avoid sustained fire. The Colossus is the slowest out of the Javelins, but also the toughest. It can take sustained fire more than any other suit and can also equip and use heavy weapons like grenade launchers. It can also deploy a shield to protect the suit from damage, and while it's out, charge at enemies. This is not restricted to the ground and it can fly with the shield out. The Ranger has heavy armor but is still quite mobile. It has no major strengths or weaknesses and has something for every situation. You start the game with the Ranger, but will unlock the others after a short tutorial and mission, so relatively quickly, around under an hour. You can customize your loadouts before a mission and save them for quick selection. You can have multiple suits to suit your needs. You may have an assault type Colossus for powerful area effect range damage, and you might have a melee Colossus with flamethrowers, taunt, and up close and personal attacks, all of which can be customized individually. Your shields recharge over time, but your health does not. There is no way to restore health in combat besides picking up health drops from enemies. You can also get ammo pickups from drops as well. Your abilities don't consume ammo and will recharge over time, so you can use a mortar, for example, to conserve ammo if you're running low. Abilities can combo together, like electrocuting a group of enemies, then using a kinetic attack like a railgun, doing increased damage. Hitting weak points on enemies causes more damage, like the head on a humanoid or a sack on a spider-like boss. Enemies come in a lot of different varieties. There is the Dominion, which also use exosuits and can be quite dangerous. This also means the weaknesses that your suits have can be exploited in their suits. For example, if you see a Storm type suit, you can take out its shields and watch it plummet to the ground. There are also the Scars, who seem like junk-ridden humanoid creatures, and there are beasts and creatures of Anthem, some of which aren't friendly. It seems there will be a lot of variety. The Scars, for example, are shown to have snipers, heavies, supports, and many more. There are also friendly grabbits as well, of course. There are different difficulty settings, each yielding better rewards than the last. It might be good to revisit missions on a higher difficulty. Think Diablo yet again. Story in the hub areas will be first person, but the combat and exploration will be third. The idea is to immerse you when you're out of your suit, but there's a lore reason why you see in third person when inside the suit. So there will be no PvP at launch, but that never really seems like Biowares' thing. The game will not be cross-platform at release, but it's something they're looking into. The release date is February 22nd next year, but those who pre-order it get early access. There will also be a demo coming early Feb. So thanks for listening, guys. If you want to support this channel, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that little bell button. YouTube doesn't like to show you content otherwise. If you want to go one step further, I just started a Patreon page, and any amount will help me keep this content coming. For those who want to talk to me directly, follow my Twitter at DantixOfficial or join my Discord for chats with like-minded individuals. So for all things Anthem, stay tuned to Dantix.